So today we are moving on to punctuation, like I have said. So we'll start today, we'll continue tomorrow. For today, let's just take note. So I'm trying to share a screen with us now. So the screen of the slide. So today, like I said, punctuation. All right. Okay. Punctuation is something that is very, very important for language. It's a sine qua non to good writing. If you want to write well, then you must have a perfect grasp of punctuation in English language. So as a definition, punctuation is the way marks or signs are inserted in a piece of writing to mark off words or group of words. What we are saying is there are different marks or symbols that we insert into our write-up to create different effects or to be able to pass on different messages. Without punctuation, our writing would be defective. It would affect interpretation. Sometimes it might even lose the meaning outrightly and actually give room for a wrong interpretation of what we have written. So these marks that we use, that we insert for us to be sorry, something happened there. And Balogun, you need to make me co-host so that I can share the screen or do whatsoever. The class has been interrupted.
Let's use your class for time.
Hello, Balogun, can you hear me? All right, good. Okay. You interrupted what we were doing, and that's too bad. Hitch. Um, we're talking about punctuation today. It refers to marks or symbols that are inserted into a piece of writing or in our write-up for us to create emphasis, for us to give proper interpretation, for us to be able to communicate effectively. All right. I would say for our write-up, of the same effect as intonation when it comes to speech. You know, when you speak, you vary your intonation. You have a rising tone, you have a falling tone. You have all these differences or issues, sorry, variations in now. The way your voice, it will be able, one can be able to deduce from the way the words are expressed to show whatsoever you're trying to show. If you want to ask a question, the way the expression would come will be quite different from if it is an order, a command, and it will be different from just a declaration. You're just expressing a statement of fact. All right. Now, all this we are able to achieve with our intonation. However, for writing, what does that is the punctuation. I would say for us to be able to communicate effectively, then we must properly punctuate our writing. Apart from that, when you punctuate carelessly or you punctuate wrongly, it creates a problem of interpretation. People find it to be able to interpret effectively what you have written. You create ambiguity where people that such an expression will be open to multiple interpretations to bring up because you have, it is important. And for us as students, because when we make punctuation errors, we will be penalized. If you're supposed to include a question mark in a particular sentence and you now put full stop, you'll be penalized. If you're supposed to start a sentence, ordinarily you're supposed to do that with a capital letter. Imagine you starting it with a small letter. Automatically, you would be penalized. All these are actually punctuation errors. And unfortunately, punctuation is, seems more difficult it's easier for you to detect a spelling error and you correct it. If you also want to know the spelling of a word, it's quite easy for you. You just go to a dictionary. This thing keeps disconnecting. I don't know why. God. We continue now to detect spelling than for punctuation. So what we only have is the principles or the set of rules guiding the use of punctuation marks. And that is what we want to go through today. And I hope that you follow me. Now, let us see how powerful punctuation can be. Look at this slide. It says, consider this. Who is calling Bumi? That's a question, is that not so? Who is calling Bumi? Now, look at the second one sentence. Who is calling Bumi? The first one, who is calling Bumi? means that someone is trying to find out. Bumi has been called. So you want to find out who is calling Bumi, who the person behind the call is. But in the second, because of the comma between calling and Bumi, it changes the structure of the sentence. And what you would have is who is calling Bumi. This time around, you're actually asking Bumi a question to find out who is calling. That is what punctuation, just the introduction of that comma in that sentence has altered its meaning. And that's how powerful it is. I'm sure a lot of us, look at this second one, I'm sure a lot of us must have come across this, that a professor of English actually came into a class and he wrote the expression on the board, a woman without her man is nothing. And you have in that class, you have males, you have females. So the first one is the way the males in the class punctuated that sentence, that statement. For the males, they wrote, a woman without her man is nothing. So it means, therefore, that from the perception of the males in the class, that a woman is nothing without her man. So without the man, a woman is nothing. That's the implication of what they are saying. Now look at the way the females punctuated theirs. They said, they punctuated, a woman, they put colon. Without her, man, comma, without her, comma, man is nothing. The implication of that is man is nothing without a woman. Not the other way around. In the first case, a woman is nothing without her man. Now, but in the second case, according to the women, that without a woman, a man is nothing. That is what punctuation, the effect punctuation can have on our writing. So it is very, very important. Look at, imagine if the professor just wrote something like that. He did not punctuate and he did not ask them to punctuate. He leaves the class to decide on how they want it. Look at the ambiguity that will be created. It is the same statement, but you are having such a statement is now open to multiple interpretations. That is what punctuation can do for you in writing. And that's why we have to be very, very careful, because punctuation is very, very powerful. Very, very powerful. All right. Now, what's the importance of punctuation? Punctuation is very important in the sense that for these marks, they show the reader where a sentence starts and ends. So you're able to know, how to read whatsoever thing you are reading. Something has been written. So you need to know where it starts from and where, an expression, a statement ends. So it is important we take note of that. The second thing here is that it helps in bringing the right kinds of expressions into writing. So you are able to manipulate whatsoever you have written. You're able to create different effects, with what you have written. Then the third one here says, these marks show variations in tone of voice to indicate emphasis. So look at the example that we just mentioned just now, that a woman without her man is nothing. A woman without her man is nothing. Now, it depends on, if I were, they were trying to call attention or create emphasis in a different way. The women, in their own view, they wanted to put emphasis on the importance of a woman. While for the men, they wanted to give importance in written expressions. So in order to avoid ambiguity, then it is important that we punctuate properly. Imagine if the professor was actually trying to support the women in what has been written, and the men he now fails to punctuate. So it means he cannot hold the men responsible he cannot blame them for the interpretation they brought into the statement that was written. So it means, therefore, for us to be able to clarify what we have written, then we would need to properly punctuate our expressions. Now, there are many punctuation marks in English language. There are many punctuation marks in English language. So we have the initial capital, we have the full stop or period, we have the comma, we have the colon, we have semicolon, we have question mark, we have exclamation mark or point, we have apostrophe, we have hyphen, we have dash, we have caret, we have parenthesis, we have ellipsis, we have a slash or oblique, we have asterisk, we have quotation mark, we have inverted comma, we have italics. Now, these are different ways by which we can punctuate a particular sentence or statement or expression. Now, so for today, we would only take the first three because of time. By God's grace, we continue tomorrow. All right. So the first one is the initial capital, the use of capital letters. Ordinarily, you would expect that everybody at this level should be able to, understand that and should be able to use it effectively. But from experience and from what has been observed in students writing, especially at SSCE level, you find out that a lot of students still have issues with some of these aspects of punctuation. Excuse me. So it is important that we reiterate it again. Now, when we say initial caps, so then we are talking about the capital letter that is used as the first letter of a word. So, initial capital for our expressions is used in different ways. First is it is used for word of a sentence. At the time you want to start a sentence, it means therefore that if I want to write, look at, I said the first statement on this slide, in the second part, we said the initial capital. And we started the initial capital, the word the, we started with what? Capital T. Then others were written in small letters. So that is what we mean by initial capital. Look at the second sentence. An initial capital is used, then you have colon. So and we started with, that's indefinite article, we started with a capital A. That is the way we use initial caps. So we must use it when we are starting a new sentence, regardless of the type of sentence that it is. We must start it with a capital letter. So if it's a sentence, begin with a capital letter. Secondly, we use the initial capital after a period, question mark, or exclamation mark. What is it that we are saying? If you have an expression, and that is coming after a period. When we say period, we mean full stop. So the moment you end a previous sentence with a full stop, the next thing that would the next expression must start with a capital letter. So after a period, when a first sentence or a previous sentence ends, before the succeeding sentence would start, they must start with a capital letter. We also use it after a question mark. If you are writing and a question comes in and you use the question mark, what comes immediately after the question mark must start with a capital letter. Then, for exclamation mark applies. The moment you use an exclamation mark to mark off the end of an imperative sentence, then you must start the next sentence or whatsoever comes after it with a capital letter. So it is important we take note of this. Then the third usage of initial capital is for titles of books, plays, films, newspapers, and so on like that. Now you have this example. Things Fall Apart is the title of a book written by the late Professor Chinua Achebe. Now, that book, the title of that book is Things Fall Apart. So if you would write such, the title of such a book, it must begin it with a capital letter. You write each of the cap, except if it's a preposition. All right, look at people, the Punch, the Vanguard, the New Telegraph, and so on like that. The name of the newspaper, you can, up till now?
And teacher has been sharing screen since question.
Wow. You still can't hear now?
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam.
Sir, your voice is breaking. Sometimes you speak, sometimes it stops.
It's cracking.
Yes.
No. Can you all hear me now?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
So I said, at what point did you stop hearing my voice? At what point did you notice that? So I know probably I should recap what I have said that you have missed.
Your voice do crack. It do stop.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, apologies. Let me see what I can do. It might be, it's the network actually. It's not as if it's anything. It's the network that is the cause of that. But then let me see what I can, if at all I can change the network. Are we together?
Yes.
Does it seem better a bit now?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. Let's see how far this can take us. All right. All right. Okay. Let me go back to the screen that we're using. All right. Okay. So I would do a quick recap of some things that I have said, that so we have different uses of the punctuation mark. So I have mentioned that. Then I have mentioned the list of punctuation, different punctuation marks that we have. We have the initial capital, the full stop, comma, and so on like that. So for today, we would focus on the initial capital, the full stop, and the comma. We'll continue the rest tomorrow by God's grace. Now, for today, we're starting with the initial capital. And I said, when we say initial capital, I mean, talking about the capital letter that is used to begin a word in a new sentence. So it's the first letter of a word. That is what we mean by. Then you have to start with the initial capital in that sentence must begin with a capital letter. So that's the first usage. The second, after a period question. In this case, we were saying that for the capital letter, you must use a capital letter for a word that is coming immediately after a full stop, which is the same thing as a period, or a question mark. When you see a question mark ending a particular sentence, the next word that would come after it must start with a capital letter. The same applies for the exclamation mark. Whatever comes after the exclamation mark, a new sentence starting after the exclamation mark must start with a capital letter. All right. Then we talk about the fact that we use initial capital for titles of books, plays, films, that. Look at Things Fall Apart. It's the name of a particular book written by Professor Chinua Achebe. And that book, the title is Things Fall Apart. So things, capital T, fall, capital F, apart, capital A. So you must start each word in the title with a capital letter. The Punch is the title of a newspaper. You have the Guardian, you have the New Telegraph, you have the Daily Times. The Daily Times, capital T, capital D, capital T. The Punch, capital T, capital P. The Guardian, capital T, capital G. So you use initial caps for each of those newspaper names like that. She Stoops to Conquer is actually a book, a drama book written by is it Charles Dickens now? I think so. She Stoops to Conquer is the title of a book. So she, capital S, stoops, capital 2, because it's a preposition, you would not capitalize a preposition. Then conquer, capital C. So let's take note of that. Those are some of the ways by which we use initial capital. Then we also use initial capital for proper nouns. Proper nouns. It is important. Because there are specific names of people which distinguish them from others. So a proper noun must begin with a capital letter. I'm sure you must have done this when you treated noun. All right. So in this case, Abdullah is the name of a person. Tuesday is the name of a day of the week, capital T. Nigeria is the name of a country which distinguishes it from every other country of the world. So capital N, Nigeria. Anytime, any day, Nigeria must start with a capital N. January is the name of a month. Ramadan is the name of a month. So by the time you want to write this, they must begin with a capital letter. Ahmadu Bello Way is the name of a street or a road. So Ahmadu Bello Way, Ahmadu, a capital A, Bello, capital B, Way, capital W. Oshodi Apapa Expressway, Oshodi capital O, Apapa capital A, Expressway, capital E. So Palm Avenue, Mushin, capital P, capital A is the name of a street. So it is important. Downing Street, capital D, capital S. It's in the UK. The University of Lagos is the name of a city, a state, a town. Pennsylvania, Minnesota, Ogun, Oyo, Kaduna, Kano, Abuja. Must begin each of these with a capital letter. University of Lagos is the name of an institution. Names of institutions like that: University of Ibadan, University of Uyo, University of Texas, University of Cambridge, Massachusetts Institute of Technology, Oxford University. Names of institutions must begin with a capital letter. But you can see capital U, of, because the preposition of will be a small letter, then Lagos, capital L. Let's take note of that. Allah, Jehovah, all these names of deities. Shango, Ogun, Orunmila, whatsoever name, Amadioha, whatsoever name you call it as a deity, Buddha, whatsoever name, whatsoever thing you believe in, if that thing is a deity and it is known specifically by a particular name, you must write that name with a capital letter. Quran, Bible, religious books. You said?
That is not you.
Okay, please. So more capital letter, let's take note. Holy Spirit, different from just any kind of spirit. Holy Spirit, it refers to a particular being. It's a Holy Spirit, capital L, capital H, capital S, and so many other things like that. Even traditional titles, the King of England, the Aláàfin of Ọ̀yọ́, the Ọọ̀ni of Ife, the capital T, Ọọ̀ni capital O, of small o, Ife capital I, the Oba of Lagos, the Emir of Kano, the Sultan of Sokoto. These traditional titles, the King of England, the Queen of England, the Prince of whatsoever, the Duke of Edinburgh, the Duke of Wales, or whatsoever title like that. So such titles you give, you write with capital letter. So these are some of the ways by which we use capital letter. And we also use it in some abbreviations. United Nations, UN, WHO, and so on, NCDC, capital letters. So these are the ways by which we use capital letters. So let's take note of that. All right. Now we move on to the next one, the full stop, or what we call period. Now, how do we use this? The full stop is used at the end of a declarative sentence. Example, she is tall. Now, I hope at this level we know the different kinds of sentences that we have. We know in English language we have a declarative sentence, we have an imperative sentence, we have exclamatory sentence, and we have the one that asks a question. What's it called again? I've forgotten the name of that kind of sentence now. So these are the different types of sentences that we have: a declaration, a question, an exclamation, and a command. All right. So the four types of sentences like that in this kind of classification. So for a declarative sentence, a sentence that is not a question, that is not a command, or it's not an exclamation, such is a declarative sentence, the one that expresses a statement of fact. All right. So a declaration. So such a sentence, at the end of it, you must put a full stop, what we call a period. Americans usually call it a period. So British people call it, full stop. So you are saying full stop, you are saying period, you're still saying the same thing. All right. So avoid tautology in your expression. So full stop, period, you're saying the same thing. All right. So that is the first usage of a full stop, to mark off the end of a declarative sentence. That is number. The next usage of the full stop is actually for abbreviations and contractions. Look at, I want to write doctor. Doctor, I use DR and I put a dot to show that it is an abbreviation. Prof, Professor Wole Soyinka, and I put prof, P-R-O-F, and I put a dot there. to show that it is an abbreviation or a contraction of the full statement. So let's take note of that. AM, antemeridian. So that is to show that it is morning. The time from 12 midnight up till noon is AM. So A.M, you use that. EG, for example. So it's an abbreviated form or a contracted form of saying, for example, e.g., etc., etc., and so, meaning and so on. So I use it, I put a full stop to show that it is like that. Although for some of these usage now, they are faster, becoming, a thing of the past. People just write them without considering, but it's important that we take notes of that usage. Then for internet websites, email addresses, we use the full stop pronounced as dot, www.unicef.org, or you say .org. Dot, it is full stop that you use to mark, that. Info@yahoo.com, info@ so and so at unilag.edu.ng. So you're using the full stop for that. We also use it as in punctuation for to mark up the decimal points within a figure, a written figure. Look at 60 naira 50 kobo. So that point there is a decimal marker to show the difference between the naira currency and the kobo currency. So that is that. 1.25. They show that the 25 is actually a fractional part of a meter, not a full meter. So 1.25 meters, 72.5%. So points. So the decimal point, we use the full stop. Then occasionally too, especially at advanced levels, use the dot as a sign of multiplication. It's a multiplication symbol. You use it. That's why I give the example, x dot x is equal to x squared. What we mean that is x multiplied by x. So it's not out of place. It is part of the ways by which the full stop is used. Let's take note of that. Then we have the comma, and the comma is the commonest of all the punctuation marks that we have in English language when it comes to writing. It is used to mark of words in a list. When you are trying to list something, you use a comma. She gave us a pen, pencil, and eraser. Note, when you use, most times you don't use a comma with and as well as or. So that's why the comma is not coming after pencil. But when you're trying to list something like that, you make use of a comma to separate each item from the other. We also use the comma to mark off. Please, let's take note of that. It's a mistake there. To mark OFF, to mark off phrases or clauses. Having seen her son, comma, she felt relieved. So, having seen her son, she felt relieved. So, that's a comma there. So you use it to separate, the clause marker. The clause, a clause or phrases within a sentence. We also use it to mark up non-defining relative clauses. Mr. Wale, who happens to be a lawyer, is aware of our situation. Mr. Wale wanted to give additional information about Mr. Wale. Who exactly is Mr. Wale? So Mr. Wale, who happens to be a lawyer, at least with that, we know there is an additional information about Mr. Wale. Then, ordinarily, I could have said Mr. Wale is aware of our situation. But I want to introduce a relative clause that will provide an additional information about the subject. Then I use a comma to separate, that clause from the rest of the sentence. Mr. Wale, who happens to be a lawyer, is aware of our situation. Also use the comma to mark off clauses, main clauses linked by a conjunction such as and, or, but, at, for, and so on like that. Look at this example. It was a very long vacation, but we enjoyed it. It was a very long vacation, comma, but we enjoyed it. All right. Then we also use the comma to mark off a tag question from the rest of the sentence. I'm sure you still remember question tag. Aren't we? Hasn't he? Isn't it? All those ones. Those are question tags. All right. So use it to mark off a tag question from the rest of the sentence. So the tag question itself, you separate it from the rest of the sentence using a comma. You have look at this example. She was at the ceremony, wasn't she? She was at the ceremony, wasn't she? You said? Okay, so that is that. And finally here, for a reporter speech that is reported directly. In direct speech, you use the comma to separate the speech in quotes, that direct speech itself, from the non-direct speech. He said, simulator. Simulator is the quotes, is the actual speech that is being reported directly itself. You separate it from the other part, which is trying to introduce it, with a comma. I can say simulator, comma, he said. He said, comma, simulator. So you use the comma to separate the quotes from the non-quotes. So these are, the uses of comma. So for today, we would only take note of this because the time has actually gone. I know some of us still have some other things to do. So for today, we have only been able to look at the comma, the full stop, and the use of initial capital for our expressions. It is expected that we take note of these rules and how we are to apply them. By God's grace, we'll continue with punctuation, with some other, punctuation marks that we have. The full stop, the comma, the initial caps are the most important for us to take note of. Others are equally important, but they are not as important as these first three, forms of punctuation that we have treated today. So at this juncture, I'll be open to answer some of your questions, if at all there is any.
Please, can you send this slide after?
Oh, can you say that again? It's dragging.
I said, can you send this slide after
The slide.
the
Yes,
class?
I'll send a slide after the class. I have not okay, someone saying, can we ask questions not related to the topic? And let's probably see for those, if I thought there is anyone that has a question related to the topic first. So in the absence of that, then you cannot ask. Do we have anyone that has question related to the topic? Okay, if there is none, then Yakub Zakaria, you can go ahead. Let's hear your question. Unmute yourself. Yakub Zakaria. You can ask your question. Oh, he caught me off my thoughts. He said he's asking, that is a sentence. He caught me off my thoughts. Correct. The truth is, even myself, I really can't speak out what exactly the message that is in such a sentence. Because the way you have put it, can someone catch your thoughts when you don't express them? Let's look at it critically, because I really don't get such an expression. And that's what I'm trying to ask. What exactly do you intend to say? Or what do you mean exactly? Can you hear me?
Like you're thinking now, and
Okay.
somebody just like you're thinking now, and you hit something, or somebody just tapped you. What will you say? Will you say it caught me off my thoughts or what?
Now, if you first look at what was written, the caught there is C-A-U-G-H-T, which is the past tense of catch. Are you with me? So that does not, and you can see that is the importance of spelling. Now, the caught you have used there, you are trying to say that someone disrupted your thinking. Is that not so?
Yes, sir.
So what you can say is he disrupted my thoughts. Or someone interfered with your thinking, probably what you were thinking, and the interference, okay, distorted the whole thing. So you can say someone distorted or disrupted your thoughts. You don't say someone caught your thoughts. Then the caught you even use there is actually, wrong. So you need to take note of it. It's actually, you are trying to probably say C-U-T. Is that not so? Cut off instead of C-A-U-G-H-T. Is that not so? So the most appropriate is to say, okay, oh, someone disrupted your thoughts or your thinking. Did you get that? Not cut off.
Yes.
All right. Okay. Any other question?
If I'm not finished, who is Abunu cousin? I don't know what I was saying. Should be love me. Let me see now.
Who is that? What are these people? What are you saying?
Sir, can we get the slide?
I will send the slide at the end of the class.
Hello, sir. Can I get?
I don't know. Police Ayo did you was there.
Sekinat, I didn't get what you're saying.
This class.
Wrong. Can I get the slide?
I will send the slides to the WhatsApp platform, the 3 WhatsApp platforms at the end of the class.
Sir.
Which one?
Jesus.
Who are these people making noise?
Jesus.
Please mute yourself.
Jesus. Wow. Jesus. 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 So.
Please, we are learning here. You are disturbing.
Who is shouting Jesus?
Jesus.
did.
That makes no sense now.
All right. I think we have peace now.
So did you get my question?
Can you come again? Like, sorry, can you repeat yourself? I can't come again.
I said for my letter, are you allowed to be like loosed in languages? Or
I didn't get that. Can you type it? Oh, she's off. Okay. Rukaya Ahmad. Okay, in a semi-formal letter, are you allowed to use loose languages? Now, one thing you need to take note of is when it comes to semi-formal letter, it's in between a formal letter and an informal letter. So the restriction is a bit reduced compared to formal letter, but it's not as loose as that of an informal letter. So you need to take note of that. So in terms of the language, it's a bit formal, but not too strict. So because there is a level of familiarity between you and the recipient of the letter, but it's not the same. Imagine as a student, if you are writing to your teacher, the formality is not the same as if you are writing to your classmates. They are not on the same level. So the way you are writing to your teacher is a semi-formal letter. So it is not too strict and is not too loose. So it's in between. So at least there is a level of respect that you must show in terms of the language. But in terms of the structure, it follows the same pattern as an informal letter. So that would be my answer to that. And someone, sir, is this sentence correct? Many a candidate fails the exam. Which exams? The exam, you say fails the exam. Yes, it's correct. Many a candidate fails. Yes. That's part of the rules of Concord. We have done Concord in this class before. So it's part of the rules. Many a rule, Concord. So it's correct. Did you? So let's take note of that. All right. So do you still have questions? If we don't have any other question, can I bring this class to an end? Did you still raising your hand?
No.
Jesus! 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 Yes, Bob.
Now, wow.
Don't worry. If you note her again, you can just report her. If any one of you knows her number, you can find out. We can just report her. If that is the case, she might actually be blocked permanently from the group. If she will only be coming here to disrupt our discussions. All right. So on that note, Did you are still raising your hand? Can you lower your hand? I think I've attempted your responded to your question. What's the difference between past tense and past participle? The thing is, past participle is a form of the past tense. Take note of that. The past participle is a form of the past tense. I have taken tenses in this class before, but then for the sake of emphasis, the question, let me just respond. The past participle is a form of, the past tense. We have, the simple past tense. We have the participle of the tense. Now, what we are saying is this: if I say, I have, if I say, I eat, that's simple present tense. I eat, yes, it's a normal thing. If I say I ate rice this morning, ate is the simple past of the verb eat. Now the participle of eat will now be eaten. I have eaten breakfast. E-A-T-E-N. I have eaten breakfast. Are we together, Ayadeji? So I hope we can get that. So that eating, E-A-T-E-N, is the participle, the past participle of the verb eat. Swim, swam, swarm. The swarm is the past participle, the participle of it. Be was being. And so many other ones like that. So forgive, forget, forgot, forgotten. So let's take notes. Yakub Zakaria is saying that, sir, in summary, can you use your own words instead of what is in the passage? And would you be penalized for using your own words? In summary. Now, in the case of summary, I hope we are still together. In the case of summary, let me say this. Can you use your own words instead of what is in the passage? Now, in summary, if you are told, in summary, mention so, 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 and so, or do this, you are expected to use your own words mostly, but expressing the same idea that you have in the passage. So you summarize using your own words. If you use exactly what is in the passage, that is lifting. So if you lift from the passage, you would have no mark. So you need to take note of that. Then, Rukaya Ahmad is saying, sir, when examiners are making an article, does it have to be the point they need? I don't get what you're trying to ask here. I don't get it.
So I'm saying that when examiners are marking an article,
Marking. Okay. Yes, I'm listening.
So
does it have to be the point they need?
Ideas, except from the one they need. As in, how will I?
Yeah, if you are writing an article, if in an essay, listen, in an essay, you are given a topic. So whatsoever you write, the point must relate to the topic. If you are told, for instance, addressing the problem of rape in Nigeria, rape is a prevalent issue at the moment in Nigeria, and you are told to write an article on it. So for you as a student, you need to first explain to us, you introduce that, let us know that, oh, rape has become worrisome in Nigeria. Different cases have been heard, different things have been happening, and it's not a particular age. Children are being raped, adolescents being raped, children are being raped, even old women are being raped. So that's probably just as an introduction. You need to let us know, what exactly do we mean by rape? You have to define it. You know, having carnal knowledge of a person without the person's consent. Without the person's consent. So you need to define it. You need to let us know who are those that are really responsible for it. You might need to let us know that it's cut across both sexes. Male raping female, female raping male. You've had a situation just probably last week. A woman that raped a 4-year-old boy in Rivers State. An adult, a mature woman raping a 4-year-old boy. So that is to tell you, so you cite different examples, then you let us know what are the causes, what people watch, uncontrolled sexual urge, so many things, influence of drugs, and so you mention some of those things. What are the effects of rape? You need to let us know. it causes, psychological trauma for, the victims. Some, the stigma. Some even have to commit suicide. Some will not even be able to live a normal life again. Some, so many things. The effects and the consequences of rape. Then, on a final note, is how can we reduce the problem, or what is the way out? Some are saying, oh, rapists should be castrated. Then the question is, what if they are females? What do you do to them? Some say they should be given death sentences. Some say they should be given life imprisonment. Some say it is actually because those that have actually even been perpetrating these acts, no one has seen that justice is being done. Part of the effort is that should be a national, sex offenders list, a register of it. And such was released earlier in the week, contained the names of all those that have been involved in, have been convicted of rape in Nigeria, so that that shame will continue to go with them, that name forever and ever. And when you mention that name, it is in that register, it becomes a black book. So when people know that, naming and shaming rapists, then you probably proper orientation of everybody, proper orientation, proper upbringing of children, both male and female. Everybody just are interested in, okay, let us focus on the girl child. Forgetting that usually for these male children that actually grow up to become adults and, molest women, is because no one actually took care of their own education and see how well we need to probably bring them up with proper orientation. Now, so all this, I wouldn't know if at all you are now trying to say you want to bring another point. I don't know what you mean by another point. But whatsoever point you bring, it is not limited to just the point they have in their, marking guide. But the thing is, it must fall under a particular category of all that I've said. Are you talking about the solution? Are you talking about the causes? Are you talking about the effect? Are you talking about those that are involved? Are you giving examples? So those are some of the things. It might not be limited to exactly, but those areas you will be expected to touch on them. So except I don't know what exactly you mean by another point. They might not be able to envisage all points under each of them. But when you bring a point, they look at it. Does it relate to the topic? Can we situate it in the topic? And are you making any sense by it? Then you would be properly, scored on your performance. So that's what I can say for now. I hope that answers the question. Lovisa Tagoro is asking, sir, in answering comprehension passage, can you use your own words? Yes. So far you would say the same thing. But one thing I would just advise